Hey everybody. I just working. I'm in the thick of more CRDT merge issues, so I thought this was just kind of interesting. It's kind of deep in the guts of. Yeah, let's just get blasted into the guts of some issue. Just another issue. So, problem is that when I here's the manifestation of it actually. Um, so I now have these agent boundaries. I don't know if has been in any of my previous casts, but we sort of create this agent boundary which is put in place because when we do a patch into the exchange component, you can either write before or after the boundary. And because we do like multiple steps sometimes, so sometimes we'll have intermediate steps of output of patches going on, and that's just to kind of keep it a little bit more dynamic and not have to wait for the entire final response before we patch anything. So, and it also allows for you to do multiple prompts, so you can like keep on hitting the hotkey to prompt as you add more text, just to kind of, let's say you want to throw in an update while it's processing it. This allows you to do that too in a orderly fashion. Like you could do that before, but we're trying to really get the prompts ordered correctly with the patches from the agent. So kind of the issue I'm having now is that this should have been before, should have been up here basically. So, oh yeah, another thing I did was, rather than having the entire response be uncommitted, only this header is uncommitted, and it's really, look at that. So this is what it did. Look at that. So, anyways, this is the committed part, and it has a head over here, and then the uncommitted part will have it without head. So this is kind of like how you can, like, in your editor, jump to the last, the beginning of the patch, pretty easily. But then the nice thing also is, the reason why we commit is so we can track inline prompts better, because now this is part of the uncommitted stuff. So inline prompt, you can just type this in and we can pick it up more easily. So anyways, yeah, I'm now having an issue with this prompt order, so I have to kind of, okay, so after this, so now if it's the final, so if it's like an intermediate boundary, like let's say we do one patch and you type above it, it's going to be sort of like interpreting your prompt along with the content above. But then if you type below the boundary, whatever is currently being processed will be inserted into the boundary and your prompt will be put below. But in the case of the last prompt, what should happen is basically both will be above what's coming, because we haven't even started anything yet. So it's a little bit, I think it'll work, but it seems like we can't really tell the last patch. It seems like at least Claude has claimed that we can't tell when the last patch occurs. So we're just going to throw in a boundary every single time, and it just so happens that if we have a boundary here, then for while we're not processing anything, any run is being processed, then we'll just the kind of desired behavior will be to put the human prompts on top in that one case only, and and while it's processing, what's above the boundary will go on top, will go before the patch, and what is below the boundary will below the patch. So anyways, notice, but like I guess a nice side effect is that I can distinguish between the content here versus my own next prompt. So notice my prompt. Uh-oh. From the previous run. So I also want to throw this out there. I know that I did a LinkedIn post where I was talking about somebody called me subhuman, and it didn't really bother me. I just wanted to say that it's kind of interesting how I guess like how we have sides now in this debate of whether or not we want to use prompt engineering or use agent loops or harnesses or whatnot. It seems like you got a little bit of a divide between I'm going to throw out labels here: the human coders and the AI and the vibe coders, right? And of course, the vibe coders want to say, no, I'm not really a vibe coder. I'm a spec-driven developer, or I'm an agent harness engineer, or you kind of want to throw in more terminology to kind of distance yourself from the yucky vibe coder label. And I just want to say that labels. I've always been suspicious of labels because labels are kind of a proxy for thought. You kind of throw in a label to have a symbol just to point at, and then you don't have to think about it. That's just your symbol. You can have all your attachments to that symbol just kind of just that's it. It's just one shot, and you already got your little piece of context associated with that symbol already ready to go, hardwired in your brain, and you're just like boom, and that's it. But I want to invite people to be a little bit more fuzzy with this because there is a lot of nuance going on, and if we were to just throw in, especially now as things are in massive flux, like especially now, like, but even when we get more stability and the churn dies down a bit with all this development going on, it's still going to be very nuanced. And here's why. So it all has to do with language, man. Like it's all like even human language itself is very nuanced. And if you look into if you dive into the philosophy of the language, you're going to notice that we have a schema, which is our ontology, and then also in our cognitively, we have an intention schema, which is symbolic, and the symbols can include words, but also pictures and icons and whatnot, and also salient memories too, salience, like little regions of salience, and that's kind of like your deja vu, moment. But we have these symbols, and everybody has a different context for a symbol. So the words that we use, which are the same symbols that we might communicate with each other, are going to have different meanings according to our context, because we're going to have different contextual mappings for that where that meaning fits in, and that's I've been exploring this with existence lang, but yeah, this is where this will probably end up, I predict, assuming all the churn dies down. But on top of that, we have all this churn going on, throwing on yet more contextual differences, and a lot of this is temporal too, because as people's understanding and cultural understanding evolves, and we're able to communicate with each other all these ideas and all our different best practices and all the things we've learned, all this mapping and contextual relationship is changing in profound fundamental ways. So we have to really be, I would say, not get too attached to the labels that we might have, especially now. And I would say in general, we just shouldn't get attached to labels, because as our understanding of existence changes, all this symbolic weight that we hold changes too, to our attention schema and how the patterns of what we hold in our understandings of different symbols changes as they apply to different scopes in in symbology and whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty much why I don't like to attach fixed labels to things. I mean, I do have labels, but they're very ephemeral because labels fit into a greater system of patterns. So, and really, it's the entire system which is the context, which holds the contextual meaning. It's the ontology, which is the schema, which is the interface that our context, along with our context, has meaning, and you can utilize that interface of the schema along with that's hypothecated with the context, you really hydrated with the context to have full meaning. So everybody's going to have a different context too. So that's where things get a little tricky, is that, okay, we have culture, shared culture. You can kind of make a model of the context, and also your history we have maybe with your audience or with the other person. You can kind of make assumptions you can model the context that the audience may have, but ultimately it's going to have error, and it's going to be not the full context as well. So you're going to have some accuracy and also resolution issues with that. So you have to kind of, that's just kind of like a caveat with, as we use the interface of the schema of our words to transmit meaning and knowledge or whatever to the audience. So that's big reason why labels tend to be prescriptive, and you have prescriptive usage of labels and also a descriptive usage of labels. So I find that oftentimes people prescribe a label onto somebody else, which is called projection, a psychological projection, and it's often used to manipulate perception with an audience. So, and for me, I feel like that is morally abhorrent. In a lot of times, sometimes it's like, okay, well, sure, you can be benevolent about it. You can say, you are, so and so is the super best, most awesome painter or poet or humanitarian, and blah blah blah. But even then, you're skewing the humanity from you're kind of creating a symbol around this person, and the humanity is also lost there too. So in some ways, I think that it I feel like it does more harm than good. And I know that our society in culture is based off of symbols, and putting in our hierarchical systems are based off of creating symbols for people and titles and all that. But the cost of that is humanity's lost, and how we interact with each other loses its humanity, because we're interacting with symbols now. Like the homeless man who's begging at the, maybe or maybe not begging, they're going to be seen as different. Or, yeah, I have an open to work title, so I'm going to be immediately judged based off of that. But, it's like the, in sometimes for good reason. I'm not saying that it's always for bad reason. There is kind of a question of, okay, well, whether or not should I trust this person or not? Because so and so, right? But I think that's kind of where it comes to, is that you do lose some of the humanity with labels, and sometimes we just don't have the attention to get to know everybody in life too. So it is also a matter of efficiency. So so it is kind of like a double-edged sword. It is a tool, but as with all tools, I guess we have to be careful with its application, and not every thing is a nail. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, sort of thing. So, yeah. Anyways, off my soapbox here. So, yeah. So, I get okay. One more thing. I'm sorry. So, I guess one rule of thumb that I try to apply to is to try to always be descriptive and not prescriptive with labels. And by descriptive meaning it is also subject to change and it's not a prison forever for somebody. Because I feel like the everlasting prison of a label is a prescriptive narrative that we're trying to impose to create this replicated context, temporally forwarded context forever, of like saying putting the halo on somebody or putting somebody into the dungeon of just they're a bad person, for whatever reason they're just a bad person, and it's like that is kind of creating a story that carries forward, which is ultimately an illusion. And I think that if we were to be more descriptive about our titles, we can properly transmit information efficiently using symbology, but from a descriptive standpoint. And I think that helps with being at least a little bit more in touch with realities, and that way the goody two shoe, the good saint or the bad evil person, you can kind of understand how things got that way and how perception got that way too, because maybe from a different perspective the roles would be reversed. And if you can see all the perspectives, then we can balance how we see each other and perhaps have more humanity in our interactions. And maybe we can avoid wars from doing that too. So, which I think is ultimately a good thing, is to avoid wars, to not have wars. That would be a great thing. But anyways, enough of that. I could go more into that, but for now, let's get back to code. So speaking of code, I feel like this is very programmatic, even though it's not like a deterministic syntax. We are having the LLM interpret this, and the model, agent harness, and the model ultimately, the frontier models ultimately figuring out what all this means. But it is interacting with deterministic tooling, and there is systems at play here. So we have to figure out how to create systems that start very ephemerally through our intention. We have to turn it into language, and then we have to then sort of also create a shared aligned context with the agents, and then we have to then see what happens, and we get the results. So one thing is, you're right. Supposedly this is a bad word, right? You're absolutely right means start all over again. Clean slate, please. But I'm finding with Agent Doc that, okay, I don't know if I'm wasting tokens or not. Like, I'm not like absolutely quantifiably verifying one way or another. But from my own heuristical, anecdotal experience, it seems like it's worth continuing. And I believe that some other people believe the same thing too. So I think this is an open debate, because I don't think we've found out all the possibilities yet. As far as maybe perhaps the clearing the slate is a local maximum. So we should consider that at least. And I don't know, like, one way or another, whether or not this is the right approach, but it seems to be working for me, and at least for keeping my context and keeping this document going forward. It's definitely the right approach right now. It feels like the right approach, and I haven't like gotten completely screwed by doing this. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue on with the you're right. I don't need a clean slate right now, and but we do have an issue here. So, and then here's the other thing too, is that I'm kind of considering the fact that I also want to see the issues with the model too, because I'm creating a tool that ultimately has to interact with all the possible states in the model. So I want to be able to create a system that does work. So, whether or not we are in a pristine, awesome state or in a you're right state. You're right. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I guess I don't know what that means, but you're right state. So I think it's worth going through the exercise and not just bailing, at least with Agent Doc. But if you're going to use Agent Doc, then maybe that's not the right way. Maybe you should just bail. Or you can create a new document with a new session or whatnot. But I've been okay with just continuing on with this. Sometimes I gotta iterate a few times, and I feel like that's okay. But I ultimately usually do figure out. I haven't been unsuccessful yet. I feel like I guess maybe I have been unsuccessful in the sense that the bug persists, especially with the CRDT. It seems like this is there's a lot of complexity going on. So maybe if I've drawn out the model properly, I should probably do that. So, and maybe there's a way to reduce the complexity, but I'm still feel like I'm still spiking a bit because I'm not super experienced with CRDTs, and I'm just exploring its interaction with the LLM and kind of also working with tmux, cross processes, and having tmux or the agent session drive the insertions and all that. So I feel like though that we do have something pretty good. So let's see. So existing but merge algorithm doesn't guarantee the insertion order relative to the existing context, where both baseline and document have different content. Okay, so we don't preserve the semantic meaning of order text should come before the agent response because it doesn't understand the meaning. It only guarantees no data loss. Okay, so this is kind of where we have to figure this out. So we did apply this. I wanted to apply option 1 and how we can ensure that we follow the correct merge orders. So I want to say, notice my prompt from the previous run. In the commit, it was placed above but in the uncommitted get response, it was placed after the patch and before the agent. I would say it was moved, but in the uncommitted get response, it was moved. All right, so this happens to kind of be the crux of our bug, so I'm going to just directly address this particular issue, and we'll try to keep our discourse simple. I don't have to go through all of its logic here yet. I kind of just want to get to the end state and let's be declarative about this. Let's just talk about exactly what we want, not fight all the little issues that are in between response, interaction that we actually didn't want. Okay, so notice that the agent boundary got moved down. This is with CRDT, not an external edit. So looks like this is the behavior of how we have the last response be before what comes as the patch. So I should probably ask if this is explicit behavior. I'm a little nervous about trusting things in skill MD. As much as possible, I want to make this deterministic and put it into into the agent doc binary, because that I know it's going to work every time. Skill MD is good, but it's also ephemeral in that the underlying models change, and that when that happens, then things change. So, as much as possible, I want to, I want to put it there. So, okay, so it looks like we lost this last line. So I think agent first, human second. So reorder agent before human function in CRDT explicitly puts the agent content before the human content. Okay. This is correct for concurrent edits. User types while agent responds. The agent's response is the primary content. But it's wrong for prompts. User type before the agent response. The prompt should come first. Yes. The fundamental issue, the CRDT reordering doesn't distinguish between prompt text, user type before agent already in baseline, should be before the response, and concurrent edits, user type during agent response, not in baseline, ordering less critical. Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that actually, actually, I don't know if fortunately, I don't think Claude's going to get annoyed at me saying actually. So, actually, we should explicitly treat prompts before agent boundary as coming as being rendered before the patch, and prompts after the agent being rendered after the patch. Yes. So, but except for the last prompt, or the last, oh my god, except when there is no current run occurring, then the prompt will be placed before the next patch, the patch in the next run. But then I guess the other thing is, what if you're typing while the next run is going over here? And I guess that's always a problem. So what happens if someone is typing while the prompt is occurring? We should have our we have a feature for this. Our polling, our watcher, or I guess our polling watcher, ensure or wait until the edit is complete before sending the diff to the run. Okay. So we still have that behavior. And the reason why is we want to avoid having incomplete sentences. So this logic should already be in agent doc. Okay, so why prompts end up in the added boundary if the boundary text. So I'm kind of repeating myself here. I think I've said this like 2 or 3 times. So this could be an issue with your right happening, but I'm hoping to be able to recover, and so far I've always been able to, I feel like. So other than, you know, as long as I stick to it, like sometimes I really got to be on the be on it and ensure that it actually finishes, because sometimes it tries to wiggle its way out. So I would say keep on iterating until we have our system have the correct behavior that I outlined, or your system is aligned with the correct behavior that I outlined. Okay, so why prompts end up with the outer boundary if the prompt text is identical in baseline to current prompt to current document. The CRDT diff should mark it as unchanged, not added. But the diff algorithm operates in character level changes and surrounding context changes. Boundary marker insertion, removal, response insertion can cause the CRDT to reattribute nearby unchanged texts. Okay. So don't reorder at all. The boundary marker handles ordering. The reorder function was designed for pre-boundary append mode with boundary aware writes. Yes. The insert position is explicit. Disable reordering for boundary aware writes. That could be, yeah. Reverse the order. Put human before agent in reorder function. This is simpler but may break. Yes. So I think option 1. Yes, I think we already described option 1. Yes. So note below. Okay, maybe I should just say it over here. So note that we moved to the bottom. We moved under the, or after the patch response. Okay, I just want to throw that out there so it doesn't get confused. Hopefully this issue will go away. It is getting better. It's definitely getting better, but there's still, yeah, little hiccups here and there. So yes, I think this agent boundary has been very useful for, at least it's like a stake in the ground. You know, it's like, boom, here it is. I guess I didn't ask also what the mechanism is to move the agent boundary down first. I should ask. What is the, or say, describe the mechanism to move it to, I would say, correctly move agent boundary below all human prompts written after the initial agent boundary when performing an agent doc run from an idle state. So this is kind of the intention of having this after the agent boundary, is that while it's running, I want to kind of have this be a follow-up. I don't want to like mix this in with the current task at all and like throw it in while it's executing. I want it to be ordered after. So maybe I should throw in a validate. Validate that this prompt after is run after the response, the patch response. Okay. So execute it again, or running it again. I think it's still chunking through option 1. So all this stuff should happen after the boundary is filled in. Very important. This spec. So important, it should be in the spec. And I think that what should be in the spec, is maybe some mechanisms stuff, but declarations, I think that like the spec should be largely declarative and let the agents figure out the mechanisms. Give it a little bit of wiggle room to cook here, but put the inputs and the outputs, kind of thing. Treat it like a box, a white box, I suppose, because you can describe some of the mechanism. You do want to have some mechanism in the spec, but it's a balance. It's something to design. It's part of the design is how much specificity should you put into the spec. So notice also that I'm not really much of a human spec writer, and I know this will probably make a lot of people cringe, but yeah, I've largely let the LLMs drive it just for efficiencies, just for like my own personal efficiency. I should inspect it more, but this spec is actually getting pretty big, so I should probably maybe not in session, but I should probably start to inspect this spec a little bit more closely. All right, so okay, this did not seem to work. So, oh, I spelled Ritter wrong. Ritter. So the agent boundary test failed that we just did because we should have done like a hard stop and not processed the response. It's either that or something failed. I'm not really sure what failed, but oh, and we also have another issue too, which is we wrote our patch after the agent boundaries. So looks like maybe what we did here caused this whole response to come afterwards. So yeah, this is something we gotta nail down. All right, so let's see what the response is, and then maybe we can nail this down. So committed CRDT now skips reorder agent before human when a boundary marker is present in the baseline. This should fix the prompt at the response. So yeah, so this is kind of where we had an issue. So note that in the last patch, we have, note that the last patch is sandwiched between two prompts after which are both after the agent boundary. So what happened is so in the uncommitted code change set, we have patch, and then we have this. Please diagnose using our logs. Please diagnose. I guess I should assume we're going to use logs. Read logs, including reading logs. Write tests and fix. Or let's just diagnose this at first, and let's chat about it, because we are hallucinating a bit. So just to kind of go a little bit slower, and this could just be me, but I do like to see what's going on even while it's hallucinating, because I feel like ultimately the model is not a perfect the map is not the territory here. We're not going to have a perfect reflection of reality, so it's good to maybe explore the different error states a bit, I feel like, at least while developing this particular open source project, but maybe not in regular work. But I am like 100% dog fooding this, so I'm going to tend to do this a lot, and maybe other people won't because they're not dog fooding this part of the project. Though I do want to kind of facilitate people dog fooding their own systems, and I hope to get there soon, where people can just create their own handcrafted system that is fully, we have the parts that are binary and the parts that are in context, and it's just tailor-made just for them and their use case. So in order to do that, I might have to kind of be opinionated a bit, at least nudge some opinion. But as with most LLM systems, you can probably, change that opinion pretty readily. So I'm not going to, I don't have any system prompt going on anyway. So this is going to be a layer underneath the system prompt, like the tooling prompt and the userland prompt. Anyway, so it's not really my responsibility to do that. All right, so we do have a boundary down here. So I did ask to describe, so we could contain the boundary marker. The right knows that apply patches use boundary mark aware insertion, which is already placed the response after the user's prompt. Okay. The CRDT merge preserves this ordering instead of swapping agent before human. Okay. So I guess we know that where it's at when we do apply patch. So I'm not really sure if this answered my question or not. So is there specific binary logic to move the agent boundary after the human prompt area when the what's called the agent session is idle. Maybe this is not the right framing, because what if you have multiple documents? Maybe agent session is not already running the document. Okay. Okay. So we had an ordering diagnosis. So the mechanism. Oh, we have it here. Idle run. The user types a prompt in the exchange while the agent is idle. The user invokes agent doc, which triggers the skill workflow. The agent doc binary removes all stale boundaries, inserts new boundary at the end. So I think this is yes to that question. This is deterministic binary code. It's a new boundary at the end. Step 3, agent reads user prompts from the diff. Step 4, agent doc writes stream, inserts response at the boundary position, which is after all prompts. So we should probably, so maybe if I don't need to ask this anymore, because we already have an answer, but perhaps we should say what happens while, I guess we already answered this question, because yeah, we're gonna do that loop thing, right? We're gonna wait till the user's finished before we send the text or the diff. So we should do that. Maybe, I don't know if I should have like a check here or not, if that's gonna be redundant, but I could ask that again. This means the prompt typed while idle are always before the boundary, and the response is inserted at the boundary after the prompts. Okay, the diagnosis is the current document. Looking at the current document, the ordering is actually correct this time. Describe the mechanism typed after old boundary. We have this over here. Insert at old boundary. Validate this prompt typed after response appeared. The response is sandwiched between two prompts, but this is correct. Uh-oh. I don't think it is correct, because this is correct. This is correct because prompt 1 was typed before the response appears before it. Prompt 1 was typed before the response appears before it. Well, no. But it was typed after, but it was located after the boundary, the agent. Since it was located after it should be placed after the what's called the patch, the agent the response patch. So prompt 2 was typed after the response appears after it. The old boundary was from a previous cycle reinsertion. The user typed after it, type prompt 1 after it. Then the response is written. Then the user type prompt 2 after the response. Yeah. So the five stale boundaries cleaned the cycle, confirmed multiple boundaries had accumulated from prior cycles. The new boundary 4D9 is now at the end of the document after all content. All right. Spec MD update needed. The boundary lifecycle insert, consume, reinsert, cleanup should be documented in Spec MD. The key invariant prompts typed while idle always appear before the response because agent doc boundary runs at step 1B and places the boundary after all the user texts. Why? If the binary, if agent doc, I forgot what the command was. If agent deterministically moves the agent boundary component, why, if, okay, why does spec.m, oh, right, yes, spec.md, we're not talking about skill, okay. Okay, spec, right, yes, spec should definitely do that. And we should assert that this is a deterministic operation, so it belongs in the agent doc binary. Okay. I don't know if this is due to it being implemented by agent doc binary. All right, so please diagnose including reading logs. So why did I say that? Uh-oh, did I? Okay, so the please diagnose, is this, I should ask. So was placed after the response patch. Was this prompt an input to the response patch, or was this missed? So if it was processed, if, okay, I guess I'll let me do this. If yes, then it should have been placed before the response patch, or was miss. If yes, then it should be placed after the agent boundary. Maybe we should do it that way, just to kind of make it explicit. That way, like, I feel like this is ambiguous because I'm not sure if, well, I don't know. It's like right now it's ambiguous because it's a bug that I'm dealing with. But if we have it be after the agent boundary, then for sure I would know that it was not processed as part of that particular run. So this might be an ephemeral change. Maybe if we get this really nailed down solid, maybe we can move it back above the boundary. But for now, I'm just going to put it after the boundary if it was missed. So this is kind of getting, you know, I guess the question is, you know, you could argue here that it might be better to hand code this. And had I had a system where I could just like work with the actual code, which I do, I mean, I could just jump in and work with the code, maybe it'll be more effective than dealing with these prompts. But I'm also dog fooding, so, you know, I kind of want to see what it's like, I guess. Okay, so all right, so we have some updates here. I guess we're about to commit this. We did. Oh, spec.md need. Okay, so it looks like it moved. So notice that this spec.md update needed was up here, committed, and then it got moved down. I think we inserted something. I think this was our actual. No, it wasn't. That's interesting. So I wonder why it got moved down below, but I don't know if I wonder enough to add a prompt yet, but we'll see. All right. Your correction is right. I'm right again. So does that mean the model's screwing up? I don't know. Because the model should be right? Otherwise, start over again. The boundary is the dividing line. Content before boundary appears before response. Content after boundary appears after response. Okay. When agent doc boundary runs at step 1b, I don't know what step 1b is. It moves the boundary to the end of the exchange. When the agent doc boundary runs at step 1b, it moves the boundary. Okay. All the user prompts. Maybe it's in here. No, doesn't seem to be. All right, so look at 1b. No. All the prompts typed while idle end up before the boundary. No. Oh, right, because we're moving the boundary into the exchange. The response is then inserted at the boundary after the prompts. This is deterministic agent doc binary in. Okay, so let's ensure that I'm just going to do this just to make it explicit. So this means calling agent doc run with the diff is blocked. Or this means sending the diff to the LLM to the agent is blocked, correct? So this should be correct. Please diagnose, clear read logs. The prompt was the input to the response. I read it and responded to it, but it ended up after the response patch in the document. This is the same as the CRDT reordering bug. So the prompt was an input to the response, but I read it and responded to it, but put it after the response patch, yes. So please diagnose, was it in the document before agent doc boundary ran? Step 1b, place the new boundary after it, correct. I saved the baseline, continue, please diagnose plus boundary, apply patches, inserted response at boundary after please diagnose, apply, okay, insert response at the boundary, right, CRDT merge reorder. Okay, so the CRDT merge messed it up after the response. Even with the skip reorder, the CRDT merge can still reorder content. The skip reorder flag prevents the explicit agent before human swap. Okay, so when do we actually use the CRDT reorder? If we have removed all usages of CRDT reorder, we can remove it and the skip reorder flag. Maybe we should. I'll throw a comment in there. Just because I don't want the LLM to go ham on this. All right. So even with the skip reorder, The CRDT merge can still reorder content. Skip reorder prevents explicit agent for human swap, but underlying YRS CRDT merge can still produce different orderings based on the causality model. Okay. Don't rely on CRDT merge for ordering. Instead, after apply patches, produces content Rs with correct ordering, responsive boundary at the prompts. Check if the document hasn't changed. If unchanged, write directly, no CRDT merge needed. The CRDT merge only triggers when current content does not equal base. Since the user doesn't edit during the response generation in most cases, the direct write path to your current content equals base should handle the common case correctly. The CRDT path is only for concurrent edits. I kind of wanted to work always. I want this to always work. So ideally, the CRDT should apply with the correct ordering. To specmd, I'll add the boundary life cycle with the invariant. The boundary position is deterministic binary operation with the ordering guarantee. Okay. So compact, exchange, and release. Oh, then we have stuff here. So note that a significant portion of the prompt is after the agent patch. Please please write tests. Please diagnose, write tests, fix, and install a test and do a local install of the binary for testing. Okay. So we might have one more messed up output before it's correct if the agent is on a good path. I also feel like continuing even after you're right is also a good sign of sort of the veracity of agent doc too. Because if we can like recover from a you're right consistently, then I think we're onto something. We passed a certain threshold at least, and I'm not saying, I'm not claiming exclusivity with this. I'm sure other approaches will also be able to handle a you're right consistently, but this one is a case of it, so we can use it as a prototype for other bigger and better things. All right, we found the key issue. I saw that. Did you see that? We found the key issue. Okay, let's see what the key issue is. The ultra key, master key, root cause, Mason cornerstone, unlock time capsule issue, cause, root cause. Let's see what it is. And by the way, I'm not saying that this is going to be correct. It might be hallucinating here with this because sometimes it overclaims things, but sometimes it's correct, even after it goes through a you're right phase. So, it is possible that you're right might go through a valley for a while, and then we might hit that, maybe more global or at least regional maximum too, or even a global maximum. You never know. So in the entire space. So, this entire space is probably very vast, and it's hard to say if you hit the absolute goal maximum, because there might be other maximums that are better. So, it is hard to say. So, um, I suspect, it could be random even, I guess it really depends. Maybe some people are having issues with the you're right, because they're only typing in single prompts at a time, and maybe what agent doc unlocks is having the diffs and multiple prompts and context within the document. We contextualize where we put prompts within the actual document itself. So that could be part of unlocking the next step here. That's, I haven't verified one way or another, because I'm basically just heuristically going through all this, anecdotally. So, this could be, we could be onto something, but it's, and it seems like, to me, it seems to be working pretty good. But I've also haven't really done a whole lot of other approaches in detail. So, I think that we all are kind of trying different things and taking it to where it can get to. And I definitely feel like there's a lot of people who are into the total automation standpoint and creating the perfect spec to, or at least iterating on it to create all your agents, and then working on that. And I'm working from the document and working also with the spec too. So I have a spec and I have a running prompt document. So I think the tool itself is more powerful than just typing in here. But it's how powerful is it? How much can it stand? I feel like it can go a long ways, and I feel like it can be more than just documents. It can probably also be complete user interfaces. But I'm just treating the markdown document as sort of like a user interface right now. And perhaps you can do this with spreadsheets, and perhaps people are already doing this with spreadsheets. So I'm not, I just haven't really been down that road yet. So okay, so good. Look at that. This stuff is before the response, the patch. And look at that. There's nothing here, so I think it worked. Okay, so I'm going to take this seriously now. So, root cause found. The IPC ordering bug is not in the CRDT merge. It is in the editor document caching. Okay. Dun dun dun. Oh man, I need to have like a soundboard now. When I get some money, when I'm got some work and income coming in, I'm gonna buy a soundboard to start doing sound effects, maybe, just to make this a little more entertaining. But yeah, I just need to get ultra productive, and then I can be on par with some of the actual programming YouTubers who are top notch, who are the A-listers. But for now, I'm just a muggle, and I'm just going through my process. Hopefully, it's a good process, and we can get somewhere with this. Because I want to rub shoulders with the A-listers here. And I mean, I'm not gonna be I don't want to be all that and pompous. I want to be down. I want to maintain my roots and not try to grow too big. But because I don't want to lose my I don't want to be abstracted away from reality. That there's an actual philosophical and spiritual component to this, in that if you become too big, you have to have abstraction from reality a bit, and I don't want to lose that. But I do like security, though, and I do have some abstraction from reality. I'm not in the bush, although people living in the bush they were in the Garden of Eden, so but so there are some realities that are contextually better than others. Like, yeah, if like I was back like 10,000 something years ago, and I was like a hunter gatherer, life might have been kind of easy, or like even like a few hundred years ago, I was in Amazon or something. Life might have been kind of easy, or even in the North American plains, like before all the diseases came, life, there might have been ample game, and it would have been great. But we kind of all have to live in our realities. But I guess maybe I don't want to be too abstracted away from the collective reality, because I feel like I do have a responsibility to be here, in that any struggle I go through, I want to like communicate how I got out of it, because I feel like that will help others in some way. And maybe it won't be like this grand, like I'm going to help all of humanity thing, but it'll maybe help one or two other people. Even that will be beneficial, I feel like. But hopefully more. But I feel like helping people in profound ways is important, and also helping myself too. I'm included. I want to help myself as well, and I feel like having the interconnected systems within myself, like maybe this is like helping me spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically too. I can untangle some of the things I'm going through. Maybe the traumas that I've experienced through life, I can kind of untangle that a little bit through exploring this complexity here, because there might be patterns in both. So I think that it's important. I feel like facing the complexity head on is important, and thus, even when I'm right, according to the LLM, we should just follow all the way down to the root cause, maybe sometimes. So yeah, anyways, off my soapbox again. So we got editor document caching, agent doc boundary writes boundary to disk, step 1B. Okay. Plugins in memory document API still has old content without boundary. Okay. Interesting. So I guess the question is, do you mean the plugin, the shared object FFI plugin, or the I guess I'm assuming the shared object FFI, or the Rust, or the editor. I should give this language. Rust backend, the shared object backend plugin. We'll call this the backend, or the plugin backend. I think we should give this a term, or the editor, or the plugin front end. Written in the editor's language, or editor's environment, or executed, I would say. I don't know how to phrase this, because the shared object is in the same process, which is what makes it so powerful, is because you actually execute this in the same memory space. But you want to have the plugin front end executed, or I would say implemented in the editor's environment, implemented for maybe for the editor's environment. So you see, like, this wordsmithing I'm doing here, like I flip 4 into into 4. So I'm making like a declaration here, rather than an implementation. In would be the implementation detail. 4 is the sort of like the effect, the declaration. Then I can kind of avoid the messiness of having to know exactly what the implementation is, but I could still like communicate meaning here. So all this stuff is like, I feel like, important as far as like how you do prompting. Like it's going to pick up on these nuances here. And that's kind of where philosophy is really important, is because, you know, these models know all this stuff. So, you know, very important. So anyways, agent doc write stream sends IPC patch with boundary ID. Okay. Plugin search for boundary ID. So in the cache environment not found, falls back to the plain append wrong ordering. Right, because it's not in the cache. So we might want to make this robust as well. So if it is not found, but I'm not really sure. Oh yeah, it wouldn't be in there. So yeah, it would. So anyways, I was thinking that, okay, well, we should just like apply to any old boundary that we find, even if it's not the right ID. But the fact is, here in this scenario, we don't even have the boundary in there in the first place. So yeah, no, we don't do that. Okay, so boundary RS writes VCS refresh signal after. Interesting. What is that? Describe what is. Okay. I think this is maybe something that we do in our code. That's kind of cool that we have a signal here. Extension, TypeScript. Okay, I guess we should just look at the code because, yeah, I haven't really searched too much. So, okay, so what do we got here? This is a file, it appears. Okay, so this is kind of like our RPC mechanism, but we're using like a file-based RPC mechanism. Then imagine we're using a file watcher in the plugin land, in the plugin front-end implementation. So here's the Kotlin, our signal file. I don't know why. I guess I don't have a Kotlin plugin here. So we process pending patches. So I guess we don't really. Oh, it looks like we're polling. Interesting. We have poll events, so we must poll every 500 milliseconds, right? And then here, I think we also must poll to signal file process on refresh signal, and I think this must on did change. Oh wow! So this is like we have a file system watcher. I wonder if this is like actually using the proper events. Because yeah, I don't want to poll. I'd rather have like, oh god, the file descriptor watcher or something like that. Maybe I should ask about that. So I notice that the Kotlin that the GB Kotlin implementation has a 500 millisecond poll for events, while the oh shoot, I gotta find this again. Ah, I lost it. Come back. Okay. Hopefully we didn't. Yeah. Okay, good. We didn't like. That didn't kick off and nothing else. Okay, good. So while we had the TypeScript VS code uses, it kind of derives from a file system watcher. The VS code implementation uses, which presumably uses file descriptors, which uses file descriptors. Maybe we can just have this be a line of inquiry. Because I don't want to, like, I could, like, have, like, a whole, like, game plan here. But I kind of just want to see. Because if it doesn't do that... See, if I do the whole game plan thing, where it's, like, if else... I could try that. Yeah, so if... if... does both the KT, the Kotlin, the JB environment plus JB plus VS Code environment support FD watchers. If yes, is this atomic? Would this be atomic? I'm assuming it would be atomic because I think we do a discrete boom write to the signal file. Would the edit, the change to the signal file be atomic? Okay. So I would prefer to do file descriptors, but it's like, yeah, I guess it'll be fine because there's not that many. There, it's not like we have like thousands of these things. We only have like a few, like a handful of these signals. So, all right. But yeah, I think this should be fine. All right. So, So step 1 be the boundary insertion substep of the skill in the skill MD workflow. Okay. So after reading document before computing def. So we have our skill MD here. Do we have like a B1B? Do. Okay. So after reading document, insert boundary marker at the end of the exchange component. This marker acts as a physical anchor for response ordering. Responses are inserted at the marker position, ensuring they appear after the prompt that triggered them and before any text the user types while waiting. So, see, I feel like this should be part of the deterministic. I'm questioning this. So, should be part of the agent doc run in the binary? I would say deterministic. I feel like this should be determined. This seems like it's deterministic to me. Or it should be deterministic. It shouldn't be in AI land. It feels like this is really a mechanical operation. Here, let me turn my light on. It's starting to get a little bit later. All right, so diff sending is blocked. Yes, cool. We're good. Yes, we want to block until the user has finished typing. CRDT reorder. Only used when the file changes during response generation. Content current does not equal base. When the IPC fix, with the IPC fix, most writes go through the plugin path, no CRDT at all. Okay, I guess so. I'm still shocked that the CRDT. So why can't? Okay, the IPC fix plus CRDT skip reorder together should handle both paths correctly. So why did the CRDT path incorrectly order the human prompt after the let's see. I don't remember if this is before or after case. I'm starting to lose track of the history here. So I'm going to leave it ambiguous, and maybe the LLM can remember. Maybe not. I'm not too concerned. Okay, we got a new plugin zip. So let's install this first, just so I can test it. So I'm going, this is my development environment. Oh, you know, you can run, there's an explicit step to install plugins, and I haven't yet submitted this to the JetBrains store. Oops, I got a plugin. But I think I did submit it to the VS Code, the open VS Codium, whatever that place. So, yeah. I also have ways of installing the plugin through Agent Doc. Not saying it's guaranteed to work because I haven't really tested it, because I'm primarily doing it through development. So I haven't, like, I don't have 100% dog food coverage. Hopefully one of these days I will. I haven't really been focusing on making this work for everybody else yet, just on my own stuff. But I think at some point I need to get this, like, solid, get the whole onboarding install process solid. So let's execute this, or let's run this. Oops. So we're going. I don't know why we compacted. I should ask. Why did we compact? Why was the document, was this document compacted? I did not explicitly request compaction. It might have, like, been a leftover from something previous. Alright, so at least we answered the questions. The plugin front end, patch watcher, and FFI backend handles component parsing in the patch application. It processes the content correctly. The issue is the plugin's front end document API, which caches the file content in memory. Okay. When the agent doc boundary writes to disk, the document API doesn't see the change. Uh-oh. What happened here? Oh, no. Alright, something... I apologize for an unauthorized compaction, and then I'm, like, completely reversed, too. Uh-oh, another you're right. I compacted without your explicit... That is wrong. I assumed the long exchange needed compaction to avoid context issues, but I should have asked first. Yeah, you should have. What happened? In the previous cycle, I ran agent doc compact task compact, okay, before writing my response. The exchange had 256 lines of conversation, including line questions. I compacted it to keep the document manageable, but this was my decision, not yours. Rule: never compact without explicit user request. Compaction loses conversational context. The user may still want reference. I'll only... Okay, so I got a couple questions about this. So will this session reference the archived document to get full context? If yes, for how long? And then this is another question I have is, does the entire document, or is the entire document placed into the context, or only the diffs? Only is added, I would say, added into the agent in memory context or only the diffs. The previous document state should already be inside of the in-memory context. So unless we also compact the unless we also compact the agent in memory context, what would compacting the document itself achieve? Let's think in first principles here. Okay. Is entire okay. Alright, I guess I shouldn't have done that because I had more stuff. Shit, sorry for swearing. The response to my compaction query or prompt was placed after or before the oh no. Okay, now things are really getting messed up. Was placed before, so I just had an external edit placing my current edit above from below the boundary to above the agent. The response to my compaction prompt was placed before the first response patch after the compaction event. Okay. We got some issues here. So now, okay, with this latest response, with this latest patch response onward was placed after the boundary should be last. The boundary should be after the patch response. Okay. So is the entire document or only the diffs? The skill workflow reads a full document and this full snapshot every cycle. If yes, so yes, the entire document is in the agent's context. The diff is computed by comparing them, but both full texts are loaded. What? Okay, that is not expected, but I thought we were only sending diffs, but if the full, so are we sending both the full document plus the diffs? Or are we, or are we comparing the diff overlaid on the last commit? I'm still trying to understand this. the diff is computed by comparing them. So yes, the entire document is in the agent's context. Okay, because I thought we used tooling to to look up the snapshot plus the commit plus the current document content. All right. What the so I guess I'm asking, are you sure? Or so so your answer sounds like you place the entire before plus after content or document content in the context. Do we ever purge any of the versions, any of the document version content? All right, so what does compacting achieve? For the current session, nothing. The previous document state is always in the agent's in-memory context. Right, from prior reads. Compacting the document mid-session removes the text in the file, but the agent already has it in the context, okay? For future sessions, new Claude instance, compaction reduces context tokens. The new agent reading a 500-line exchange uses more context reading, right. So compaction is a future session optimization, not for the current session benefit. How do we reconcile the four states of document plus and session compaction? Oh shoot, I ran it. No. Will the reference... Okay, hopefully we don't have more. I should define what these four states are. So I was trying to, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. So hopefully it'll pick up what I mean, but I'm not assuming it will. I did it a little too early, and I just don't want to like interrupt it mid-meaning. Hopefully it'll ask me. No, the archive is a plain file on disk. The agent does not automatically read it. Context from compacted exchanges is lost from the agent's perspective. Context is lost. It totally replaced what I was reading. It wasn't supposed to do that. Damn it. Because I'm in append mode. I'm in patch append. So this might be the you're right problem. Like the context is in a state where it's a little, I guess, disobedient. But I kind of see this a little bit as a challenge to the robustness of the system as well. So I'm going to roll with this a little bit more. And if it just becomes too frustrating and too weird and all that, yeah, I'm going to stop it. But, right now it's kind of driving out edge cases, which I think is good. So, because ultimately with AI, everything is non-deterministic or in a sense probabilistic, I should say. So there is a probability always that things are going to be in certain states. It's just that certain contexts will make undesirable outcomes arise a little bit more often than others. But since I'm dogfooding this, I kind of want to get into a state to where the undesirable outcomes happen a little bit more often, so I can, it's kind of like fuzzing. I'm fuzzing this a little bit. So yeah, I kind of want to do the undesirable outcome. I'm not trying to have a polished video here. I'm just trying to do things that are, you know, the messy reality and just dealing with it and fixing it, ultimately systemically. All right, so but to recall, I was reading something and we replaced it. So I should say that here. So issue, so bug. I was reading the output. I accidentally how do you spell accidentally? I guess I can't spell. Neither can accidentally. T-A-L-L-Y. I accidentally started agent doc run, which exposed an issue. As I was reading the patch, the pre-run patch, response patch, when the run completed, it replaced the content that I was reading, even though oh shoot, but this was kind of a manifestation of the boundary. I think it was, because let's confirm. So history. Let's confirm here. So this happened, what time is it? 50. So I think it happened probably in this window. So here, shoot, what was the context is? Yes. So was this after our boundary? Doesn't seem like it. So is this before the boundary? Yes, it was before the boundary. And I just want to verify I don't have context is in here, right? Oh, I do. Shoot. So, okay, that was a red herring. Let's go a little bit further back. So here, maybe I just missed it. Maybe it's not really a bug, because there's a lot of writes going on. So this is kind of the CRD. You know, I was like meaning to ask, why do we get so many writes? So many local writes through the CRDT, and I have a feeling we have some inefficiency going on. But yeah, so it was after the boundary here, but we still have it. Shoots, I should have kept it. Do I still have it? No, I don't. Damn it. I gotta find it again. I gotta track this down again. So here it is. So okay, so this is a case of it. So mid-session, so we didn't actually lose it. I don't know like why I didn't see this, but we have it here. So I guess we're not okay because we prepended. So this is the actual bug. Was prepended over the already in front of already committed previous patch. All right, let's let it deal with that. You know, throw in another little jab at it, see if it figures that out. All right, how the context works in the skill workflow. Context loading plus boundary still broken. How the context works in the skill workflow. Each agent doc invocation triggers a skill which uses Claude's read tool to load the document and snapshot into the Claude's context window. All right, each triggers a skill. Okay. These are full file reads. The entire text is added to the conversation. Claude's automatic context compression trims older messages as the context grows, but within a cycle, both full files are in context. The diff is computed by me, the agent, by comparing the two texts. It's not computed by tooling. I read both. Like, why is not supposed to do that? Do we purge document versions? No, each read calls the full. Okay. Boundary order is still broken. You're seeing the response placed after the boundary because the JB plugin has not been updated. I thought I updated it. I swore I updated it. Let me verify. Yes, we are on 210. Not true. Oh God. Not true. We are currently on 0.2.10. We were already on 0.2.10. So I thought, so can we pivot toward using our tooling and without having to load largely duplicate content or agent doc content into the context, duplicate copies of, can we have content duplicate snapshots? Can we have an origin, a root? I don't know if this is going to work or not. Or maybe we should say a head snapshot and a root snapshot with diffs in between. I don't know if this is really ideal because I think we definitely want to have a head snapshot. Maybe we can have diffs going backward with diffs going backward. Help me understand how this context works. Can we, we don't, I don't think we need to have like a time database where we need to go back in time. Like I presume that we don't need to go back in time with the context. We can always roll forward with the latest head of the document. can we roll forward with the diff, with the relevant diffs, with placement, recognizing the position of the diff relative to the rest of the document. And, while purging old snapshots of the document. Is, do we have tooling to revert or look up old snapshots of the document? I think we do. We have get and we have our snapshots. Let's prefer using our tokens, our context tokens efficiently. All right, so do we purge document versions? No, each read calls prior reads from earlier cycles still in context. There's no explicit purge. Does this cause, I would say, bias toward older, or I would say towards the towards content that is redundant across the different versions of the document, even if the context, even if we evolved past an older state, can the older state still bias the current instructions? Can the older state that is repeated across many versions still over bias the current instructions? Okay. Boundary ordering is still broken. You are now seeing response placed after the boundary because the JB plugin hasn't been updated. I have updated it. Not true. I already updated when I ran run agent doc. Okay. Will the session reference the archive document? No, the archive is in plain file in disk. The agent does not automatically read it. Context is compacted, exchanges is lost. From the agent's perspective, unless explicitly asked to read from the archive, okay, it's only for human reference only. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna possibly need it, if we roll our, if we purge old snapshots from the in-memory context, then we may want to read the archive for reference. Okay, when compaction is useful. Before, okay, so this is the 4 states that, let's see if it infers it properly. Before a context compaction event, Claude's automatic context trimming, a shorter document means less is lost. That means less is lost. Okay. When starting a new session in the same document, less context to load. When exchange is long and approaches Claude's context limits. Okay, that's the in-memory context. Mid-session, when it's not useful, it's mid-session when the conversation is active, context is already loaded. When the user is still referencing inline context in the exchange. Bottom line, compaction should be user-initiated action. Then they decide the exchange history is no longer needed. Yes. Non-agent optimization. I just had an external agent place. Okay, agent value to the above. Okay, I think this is me. I misspelled that. Okay. Stale boundary. This bug, you accidentally triggered a run while reading output the stale boundary from previous cycle. It was prepended. Okay. Root cause. Apply patches. Reinserts a boundary after consuming one. If the previous cycle's reinserted boundary isn't cleaned up before the next write, because the boundary cleanup at step 1b. Step 1b in the skill. This thing, I think we want to make this deterministic. 1b, I forgot when 1b is skipped or run was triggered from a different push, so would. Okay, doesn't go through the skill. Okay, so it doesn't go through the skill workflow. It goes directly through submit, which calls document write. 1b is only called by the skill workflow, not by the run. Fix needed. The boundary cleanup, stale marker removal should happen in document write stream itself, not just in the skill workflow step 1 that way, regardless. Okay, so do we ever want the skill to be responsible for inserting the boundary marker? For inserting the should this only be implemented by agent doc write, by agent doc, by the agent doc commands, agent doc deterministic commands. All right. Okay, this is another. Okay, so, oh, wait, what? So, oh shoot, I didn't read this part. So, the skill shouldn't be responsible. So, I think we should probably. So, if so, should we remove 1b from skill.md? I don't know if you can hear my neighbor, but he's riding on his buggy. So, all right. I was reading the output accidentally. Okay, so this is. I think, was this a case of this being at the wrong place? I don't remember. Shoot. I'm just gonna execute this. I think that this has to do with the deterministic thing, so I'm gonna take a quick break here. I'm gonna let this run. Gotta go to a little potty break, so I'll be right back, but this will run by the time we get back. This will finish.